Well, it's always a delight to have you join us on the show this morning on ITV, and today is certainly not an exception. We're talking about the ASUU strike, or looking at it from another perspective, because since the strike commenced several months ago, we don't know when it's going to end. But as we speak at the moment, there are some things that are going on which will have far-reaching implications on tertiary education in the country in the days to come, in the weeks to come, in the months to come, and of course in the years to come. Some of these impacts are not things that you probably can see right now, but whenever the strike is called off, be rest assured that these impacts will be felt in departments, in faculties, in colleges, just name it. I have with me here today on the show a professor of production engineering from the University of Benin, Professor Ralph Edokbea. Thank you for joining me, Prof. It's a delight to have you here.
Thanks, Sandy, for having me here in the studio.
Okay, let's begin from what has always been the general perspective of, has always been the perspective of some analysts on this ASUU strike. Yeah. The question has always been that this strike is as old as the country, and many a times it's as though after the strike, the things that ASUU is demanding, they are not met. And then eventually, somewhere along the line, the strike is called off. And then an opportunity comes again, ASUU goes back to strike. I don't know what you make of this situation.
You see, thank you very much, Sonny, for the question you asked. It takes a process for the union, for ASUU to go on strike. ASUU will not just go on strike like that. It takes a process. You give room for meetings, give room to discuss the issues that are involved before you just go on strike. You don't just go on strike like that. And even to finally take the decision to go on strike, you have to reach all the congresses in the federation before you go on strike. And it is when majority says that we should go on strike, that we go on strike. So it's not as if we just wake up and decide to go on strike. So it's a process. And coming to the other issue, because in your introduction you made some comments, regarding what becomes of the system by the time we come back. Yeah. You see, ASUU is very, very conversant with these implications you just mentioned. Yeah. And that's why we are painstaking. ASUU is very painstaking in taking decisions. Okay. Look at this current strike that just took place. We've been trying to have meetings with government to discuss the issues, revitalize the universities through funding. It has been there since 1992. It didn't just start today. History is there. If you go online, you'll see it. It's free for all to see. Since 1992, we've been on this until we've settled several. Till recently, we had the NIMI breaks. They set up that committee. The decisions came. We were ready to sign it so that we can go back to class. But government said that we hijack. How do you hijack a committee that the almighty federal government set up? It's not possible. It's not just possible. You see, this is the lack of trust that we have in those who are governing us in the country, not just about education, but probably in every other aspect of our economy. Femi Falana clearly pointed out these things, which we will discuss in the course of the program. It's most unfair that our children are made to go through these strikes. It's just because that is the only thing, the language that government understands.
So would you say, since the union has been going on strike, what has been the major achievements of ASUU strike, and how necessary are these strikes if the reasons for going on strikes are not being met, as it were?
If you say we are going on strike just because we want certain things to come, we also know the people we are dealing with. And that is why, for once and for all, just for the first time, let us get this thing right for once and forget about all these strikes. Because government, they have not been acting in a trustworthy manner, in a responsible manner. I'm very sorry to say, but that's the truth. You reached an agreement with the union in 2009, signed. That's a contract, I guess. The lawyers can explain to us better. Now implement what we have agreed. Since 2009, this is the 13th year. Nothing is forthcoming. And they are not even agreeing now that they are even trying to deny that. They said they are not even denying, almost denying that they reached that agreement. You can see how irresponsible our leaders can be. And it's very unfortunate. So I'm calling back to the issue that you mentioned.
Yeah.
What have we achieved?
Yes.
I will go back through history.
Okay.
TETFund. It is also struggle
That brought about
TETFund. Struggle. And government was not even interested because they was thinking that they were going to fund it. As I said, no. We can give you
a formula
to get the funds. We produce these graduates that are working for these establishments. And what do we get in return? What does the establishment get in return? So that we can give quality training to our students to improve the system, the economy. Now you give the system, and mind you, ASUU does not touch these funds. It goes back to the universities where they are utilized through the due process. The vice chancellor is there, the council is there, okay. The system is there. Okay. ASUU does not have access to these funds. The struggle is let the university education system be better off than it is now. TETFund came and they were saying they don't have money. ASUU now gave them the formula. When they found out that money was now coming into TETFund, it was hijacked by the politicians. Now TETFund, the objective for which TETFund was set up through the struggle of ASUU is almost jettisoned now. Because now they are trying to planning on establishing offices in 36 states of the Federation. Is that what TETFund was set up to do?
TETFund offices in the 36 states
of the Federation. If you listen to Femi Falana recently, he just spilled the bean. Is that what TETFund is supposed to be doing? And you ask me, some people will come up and say, "Oh, we don't have the fund. We don't have the fund to there are other sectors of the economy are also in need. We don't have the fund." But how do you address the basic corruption that we find in the system? Mm-hmm. The corruption we find where obviously is due to leak that have been the drain we have been having. The United Nations tells us that 26% of our budget should be for education.
Yeah.
26. The highest we have gotten was 9%. It was only for 1 year. That was, I think, other Jonathan's administration. This administration we have now is 4-5%
of the budget.
We are members. We are a member country to the United Nations. In the United Nations, our president just went there now to give a speech at General Assembly to tell you that we are. Meanwhile, the things that are laid down by the UN, we are not following them. As we saying, increase the budget for education, increase funding for education. Let our universities be at par with what obtains everywhere, and stop this brain drain. Look at the doctors now. Between 2015 and 2022, over 2,068 doctors have left for Britain alone.
That's medical doctors.
Medical doctors, not to other. We are not talking about the other countries. Britain alone has taken 2,068, and it is still counting.
Because many more are still living.
And in fact, in 2 months, if you go to some departments in UBTH, you will find doctors. These are the things that ASUU is saying. That we should stem this brain drain. Go to South Africa. Nigerians are the ones Many lecturers are in South Africa, to Botswana, to Ghana, many other African countries. And by the time we come back from this strike, like you mentioned, things may never be the same again. We would have lost so many of our eggheads to other countries. Cheap labor. And you want the union. I think ASUU should be praised and to say the least, you know, for its patriotism. ASUU has been a patriotic union.
Okay. But let's talk about some of the. I know you mentioned quite a number of them in the course of your analysis as it relates to the key issues that has been at the front burner in this ASUU struggle. Let's talk about salaries and emoluments of lecturers as a major issue. And it looks like when people hear that, it gives the impression that, well, ASUU is doing this for its own selfish reasons to advance the welfare of its members. Give us a picture comparatively on this as it relates to what obtains currently in Nigeria, maybe in other countries as well.
In fact, if it's a sorry state.
What makes it a sorry state?
Very, very sorry state. It's undue. What obtains in Nigeria? If you notice in our universities, you don't find foreign brains here. When I was in Ife, I had a Kenyan classmate.
From Kenya?
From Kenya. He was living with us in the hostel. We had American lecturers. We had lecturers from different countries. The current minister of Italy was a lecturer in South Africa. That is what the university system is all about. Not this localized enclave that we find ourselves. What is the reason for this? Our universities, you see, Nigerians are not the ones that dominate our universities. You don't find foreign students. You don't find foreign lecturers. How would they come? A lecturer, a professor at bar, that is at the highest point, gets 415,000 naira.
Monthly?
Monthly.
Or weekly?
Everything. Not both around every journal publication, everything. It is from there they don't sponsor. He will go to conferences. He will publish papers. At least for University of Benin, before you become a professor, you should have at least 24 papers. At least. And in the course of looking at those papers, some may be dropped. So you better tell yourself that you get more papers than 24. Because once one paper is dropped. You've lost, and you're in different categories. He uses his money to publish these things. Out of the 400, at bar. I am a professor now for 5 years now. Going to 6 years. And my salary is just a little about 350,000 naira. And the government is saying that, oh, no problem, we will give you, is it 30-something%? That or 20-something%, that will amount to about 60,000 naira. So you do, if you go to, you are in this economy. 415,000 for a professor, whereas in Ghana they had that problem. In Uganda, professor earns nothing less than $5,000
monthly.
Monthly. You know, there was a time under the Bashar Junta, they sacked lecturers and asked people to apply, and foreign people came and they applied. When they saw the salary, none of them came. And that was why those they sacked. They had to call them back. They had to call them back. And that has been what ASUU has been saying. And it will for your information, it will baffle you to know or imagine the sacrifices the union is still making to make sure that we still bring graduates who, when they still go out, they still they are still able to excel.
Able to stand out in the pack.
Stand out. The condition, you are an environmental expert. At least I listen to your program. You've done programs in environmental chemistry. You have been to the lab yourself. You and I know the sorry state of our labs.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You and I know the sorry state of our labs. It's just nothing to write home about. And then there are no stools to even sit on. And then you say, oh, we should manage. How do you manage university education? And that is why you see our universities are not visible in the international community. And the government officials will still come and tell you, oh, our graduates are not employable. Who made our graduates not? What made our graduates not employable? They are not addressing it. And that's what ASUU has been saying.
Prof, I like to take you along this line. Globally, education is expensive.
Agree.
And I've heard people say that government really can't fund education in such a way, a manner that it will be accessible. Even in civilized climes, Europe, America, Canada, and stuff like that, education is quite expensive.
Agreed.
So what is your take on the approach that can be adopted to see how we can strike a balance in all of this?
The first thing we should ask ourselves is, do we have the resources to fund education?
Fantastic.
Do we have the resources?
Do we have the resources?
And we have it. These leakages, the corruption, this is the only country that we do not know what we produce. The number of barrels we export. OPEC has given us 1 point something million
barrels per day.
Barrels per day.
Yeah.
But only 100,000 gets into the books. The remaining over 900,000.
Where does it go to?
Where does it go to?
And I realized that recently that has been a major talking point. Crude oil theft.
This is the only country where the meter, there's a software. We have gone beyond sending troops. They just give it on Polo now. Contract to monitor pipelines. I think at 4 billion per month.
4 billion per day?
Per day. Per day. Per day. What is ASUU asking for? Is it in this era, in this technological age, that we still talk about deploying soldiers to go and deploy them? It's like sending soldiers to go and be fighting Boko Haram when you know they are in the forest. What are the drones for? What's technology all about? There are too many leakages in the economy. Education can be funded. And in any case, if we can attract foreigners into our university, do you know how many Nigerians are in British universities? Even in this lockdown, embassies are writing, governments all over, they are writing that, please, the transcripts, students should be allowed to
send transcripts.
Send transcripts.
And go for, better education.
Better education. That means you are saying that they will continue to come, and then we pay, like foreigners pay through to their nose to get their programs through. Why can't we do that for our system? In the time past, foreigners were coming here. In fact, a king of Saudi Arabia was coming here to UCH for medical checkups.
Back in the days.
Back those days.
Yes.
Where have they gone to? And then you come and tell me it is expensive. Let me tell you one thing. In America that you mentioned, what we call primary education here and secondary education is free. It is when it gets to tertiary education, you have access to loans. All right? You even have access, if you are the brilliant type, you have access to scholarship. And you can even pay, you can be servicing your loans even after you have left the universities.
Maybe you start working.
When you start, and the jobs are there. They are not talking about that. They are just saying, oh, America does this. They are not looking at the systems America has put in place. You are talking of America. In Sweden, there are no tuition fees in the university. Google it. You there. I've applied to their school before. They don't pay tuition fees in the university. So, I don't know where they got this idea from. Look at IPs. You're talking about child's welfare. IP. You said UTAS is not working. It's not, they tested it. Meanwhile, IPs, you also said IPs also failed the test. Then why are you now deploying a failed system as the payment platform for our workers? Why are you deploying it? Assume that UTAS failed. IPs failed. Why are you now deploying IPs as the payment? There must be an underlying interest. There must be an underlying interest. And they have not told us the test. You are a scientist. When you write your report and you write your performance evaluation, your report, don't you state the procedure you used and how you did your analysis?
How you got your results?
How you got your results? Don't you do it? You do it. But it's not so here. We just go, oh, America is doing this. Oh, we must do this. Meanwhile, the conditions at play in America, we are not ready to fulfill it. Just the way we take democracy from America and we come here and we do something else with democracy. You and I know that's on the view. I don't need to talk more on that. So a lot of things are just wrong. And ASUU is saying, what is ASUU saying? Revitalize these universities, let it be competitive. Some will say, okay, why not pursue interest, your personal interest, your salary, your benefits, and all that, and leave. If they want to destroy the university, let them destroy the university. If the university is destroyed, where do we go? If education is dead, university education is dead, where do we go? The nation is finished. As we have been on strike now for 8, it's going to be 8 months now. For 7 months, they have used hunger strategy. They stopped our salaries, and they are even now saying they won't pay us. It's okay. You know, we've considered ourselves for this period. We have been unemployed now. So
sacrificial lambs.
Sacrificial lambs.
For the benefit of the education sector.
Yes. And yet, you see, we are not making that sacrifice. If it was a hunger strategy, we wanted, okay, let us, please, we are hungry. We would have gone back. But the mission of ASUU is clear. And that's why out of patriotic zeal, they are taking this path. And the nation will be far, far better for it. And this everyday movement of I was discussing with Dr. Nabuleli the other day. The Excellency told me that she should make a case. You know, he's the president of World Health Organization. And I said, he said, please make a case for this brief of doctor, that we should make a case for Africa, you know, so that these doctors will. And I told when we spoke yesterday, I said, Mr. President, you cannot handle that because it's purely an economic issue.
It's an economic issue.
It's an economic issue.
Yeah.
Every human being has a right to move from one place to another where he feels that
more comfortable,
and it's normal. That's why ASUU cannot stop his lecturers from moving. It's his right.
Is that your biggest concern in this whole strike discussion? The exodus of lecturers to...
It's part of it, because you see, you know why it is very painful? Majority of us you see as lecturers, government didn't train anyone. Majority of us. We did our first degree, masters, and PhD. And even when, for instance, my school said, oh, we'll be giving you 150,000. At some point when I finished, I applied for it. They said, as at the time you apply, you've already gotten your PhD, so we can't even give you the money. So it means I trained myself for my PhD. And then you've gotten to this height. One country just comes from somewhere, picks your brains that they didn't train. They won't train them much. They will even go there and write some exams. Of course, trust Nigerians, they will pass.
Very well.
Very well.
Pass very well.
They will pass very well. And then at the end of the day, they are taken away. And we are smiling and telling ourselves, oh, we have more than enough doctors. How can the minister say that? And let me tell you this, Sanjit. Even this court case that the minister went, you see, I don't want to delve into matters of the law.
Yeah, because it's...
Yes, but based on what I've heard prominent lawyers, senior advocates of Nigeria discuss, I can tell you that through that process of going to the National Industrial Court was a faulty one. And that was why the minister was quick enough to deny, to say that he didn't take the union to court. But meanwhile, the referral was signed by the minister in September. And then you are denying you didn't take them to court. So you can see that they are not acting as trustworthy leaders. And it's unfortunate that the whole nation is immersed in this kind of leadership that has no, that doesn't seem to give us a direction, doesn't seem to tell us where we should go. ASUU shouldn't have been fighting for this. It's not necessary. Okay, now ASUU has even said, okay, they have even watered down the conditions, and you signed it, and now you say you cannot.
Yes, go on.
You cannot implement this. That the committee that you set up, that ASUU hijacked it. ASUU has hijacked. That's how they did to Babalaki. And you can know. Later he started fighting ASUU, but you know that today is history. How he was disgraced out of Unilag. Then they served the Arab and same thing. Now Nimi Briggs, very very erudite professor, emeritus professor of medicine, who is the chairman of the pro-chancellors in Nigeria. You set up that committee, and they came with the report. Now, and government also says, okay, this is your committee. This is what they've agreed. You sign it and let it be. I will go to work the
next day. He refused.
He refused. What else do you want ASUU to do?
So ASUU is saying no going back on this strike?
Well, don't look at it as if ASUU is not, passionate. Don't forget that some of these lecturers, many of us lecturers, we have our awards in the university. We are not taking them. They are in the university here in Nigeria. So we should be worried about the fate of our students. But it has come to a point where government has shown that our leaders have shown that they don't care. And they are ready to do anything, even things that are, I don't know, call it ungodly if you like. Breach due process just to make sure that what they want. You and I cannot send our kids to public schools, primary schools anymore. Because they've destroyed public primary schools. We can't send them to public secondary schools anymore. Because they have destroyed public secondary schools. Now, it is the turn of the universities. And the university must be destroyed. Public schools must be destroyed. And as we say, no. As we say, no. And in any case, look at the private universities that we are talking about. How many of our wards can pay the kind of school fees they are paying? And the implication is this: if you let this thing fester, you are saying that if you let this scenario fester, you are saying that the children of those who are not privileged to have access to big funds like the politicians will continue to be subservient to their own children.
Absolutely.
Inherited poverty. And ASUU is fighting against that. ASUU is fighting against that. And ASUU is also saying, improve the system so that our brains can come out and do things. If you can do that, our students will not need to be looking for jobs. They will not need to be looking for jobs. Right. So we need to get our systems right. And as we're saying, the time starts now.
Okay.
I hope that answers this.
Yes, I'll be back with you in a moment just before we call it a wrap. Okay. Just to say thank you for coming on the program. It's the TMI Monday. I've been talking with Professor Ralph Dokweya, who is a professor of production engineering, University of Benin, sharing his thoughts with us on the ongoing strike by ASUU and the far-reaching implications, which is something a lot of people have been talking about. We've seen an unprecedented brain drain from this country, from the medical field or medical sector, from the academia, from engineering, from the banking sector. You just name, people are just leaving the country in droves. Let's get your final take on how we can bring this matter to a close, even though it looks like it's going to take a long time before this issue will be brought to a close. Do you ever see that happening based on the stance of government and the stance of ASUU? You
see, ASUU has always been open to negotiation. And where ASUU needs to bend backward, ASUU has done, the union has done so. And they are still ready. They've not closed it. And for your information, it was 1.3 trillion, just that said, okay, we need 1.3 trillion as at 2009 to revitalize the universities. And we know you don't have the funds to give at once. So you release it, breaking down 200 billion every year. In 2009, it was only Jonathan administration that released a tranche of it, which is 200 billion. And then this present administration that released 50 billion. So in all, out of 1.3 trillion,
you have just 250 billion.
Since 2009. And for your information, my emolument that I take now was what the professor was earning in 2009.
Which has now increased to about 450 at the
bar level. It has been like that. At bar, it has been 415. 415. 415.
415.
15. It's not 50.
450.
No, it's 415. That has been the take since 2009. What professor was at bar. That's it. What is any? You and I know that as of 2009, the life we're living then, you can't compare it to the life we're living now. And part of management principles, part of the principles of management, 14 principles of management, for those of us who read management, it says one of the things is motivation.
Yeah.
You don't motivate your staff, you don't get the best from them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's the scenario we find ourselves.
So is the end to this strike in sight, in my opinion?
Yeah, the end is in sight because the blueprint is already before government.
So let us sign.
Let them just implement it. Because we've given enough now. The Limit Breeze Committee is a new one. We didn't say because they rejected Balaki, we will not go for limit breaks.
Yeah.
You see? So the one that is there now, let them sign it, and the following day we'll go back to work.
All right. Professor Ralph, I want to thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
It was such a short notice. Thank you so much
for
the value you've added to our package for today.
Thanks for having me, and be rest assured that anytime you call on me, I'm a chance I'll
Thank you so much. Well, TMI Monday will take a short break. We'll be back to conclude the show. Don't go away.